Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grandstand Sports Data, where we provide you with a mix of stats and sports and are your go to channel for unbiased handicapping. Today, we will be showing you how to create power ratings for any sport. We will show you the pros and cons to power ratings, how to create them, and the factors you should include. So, let's kick it off. So, like all of our sports betting videos here at Grandstand Sports Data, we're going to show you what this video will cover in terms of the categories of a sports bettor or the foundation of a sports bettor. And the category that we will be covering today will be the research department. So, we'll be showing you how power ratings will, or the research included in power ratings, will affect teams, players, and situations. Make sure to subscribe to Grandstand Sports Data if you want to see our other categories that we cover throughout our sports betting series, from forecast all the way down to record keeping. Make sure to also check out past videos, which we will probably include cards in the upper right. So let's begin. What are power ratings? So power ratings are numbers assigned to teams that indicate how likely they are to win against other teams. These ratings are used to measure the quality of the team and their ability to beat their opponent. As you can see from the grid below, we have a very, I would say, easy to use or easy to explain power rating system. As you can see from the Milwaukee Bucks, they have an offensive rating of 115.4. And then you can see that their defensive rating is 111.9. Then when you look at the Boston Celtics, their offensive rating would be 118 even. And then their defensive rating would be 111.5. So, like I said, this would be an easy to use power rating system where we would find the score of this particular game just based on their offensive and defensive rating. So you would take Milwaukee's offensive rating, you would take Boston's defensive rating, and you would basically split the difference, and that would bring you to that 113.5 for Milwaukee. You would do the same thing for Boston, taking their offensive rating, Milwaukee's defensive rating, and you would split the difference, which comes to about 115 even. So your final score would potentially be Boston Celtics 115 and Milwaukee Bucks 113, or you can even call it 114. Now remember, this is not a crazy system or a system that no one else has. This is very simple. I want people to understand that. This is a very simple rating system. This will not help you win sports betting. I would say even the most difficult models in the world or difficult power ratings in the world will not win you in sports, or will not win in the long run when it comes to sports betting. Also, please note at the bottom, a power rating is not a ranking. So a power rating, it's not the same as a power ranking. Rankings place teams in order from best to worst, but do not indicate the difference in quality between teams. So, for example, if there are three teams in contention for a championship, say in any sport that you're thinking of, it could be swimming or whatever it is, and then there's the rest of the field, a ranking system alone wouldn't show the drop off in quality between that third best team and then that fourth best team. It would basically just say in a ranking that this is the third best swimmer, this is the fourth best swimmer. Whereas a power rating, this will display the gap between that third best swimmer and the fourth best swimmer. So this will allow you to get a better understanding of the particular swimmer's relative strengths and weaknesses. So what are some of the strengths when using power ratings? First would be it's applicable to any sport. Regardless of team or individual sports, the quality of a competitor can always be measured. While some sports may be easier to create ratings than others, it's possible to figure out how good someone is at any sport that you handicap. Next, it's very data driven, so it eliminates biases and opinions. Once you settle on an unbiased power rating formula, you'll have an objective take on all teams. Power ratings take out that personal issue or factor in your head that have no relevance to the game. And number three, they're efficient. No more analyzing box scores or useless statistics. Your power ratings should have all the statistics that matter. Simply update your variables or statistics and execute the calculations. Now, when anything has strengths, it also has weaknesses. What are the weaknesses for power ratings? Well, just like anybody will tell you in the finance industry, past performance does not equal future results. No matter how many statistics or quality statistics you have, they're all made up of past performance data. Teams will not behave the same. They won't prepare the same. Just remember, the past is the past. Next, power ratings do not include fundamental factors. A number rating can never factor in heart, injuries, weather, or revenge. Fundamental factors are difficult to be added into any power rating system. Finally, sample size. Not having enough of a sample size can make your power ratings tell a story that isn't necessarily true. Having sports power ratings with not enough of a sample size can lead to inaccurate or unreliable ratings. This is because the ratings are based on a limited amount of data, which can lead to skewed results. Additionally, the ratings may not reflect the true strength of the teams as they are based on limited set of criteria. So let's start with how we will create a power rating or what you will need to create a power rating. So first, you're going to need to pick the process or a certain method for your power rating. What are you trying to find out? Are you trying to figure out a particular game? So you're going to use margin of victory as a power rating? Do you just want to figure out who wins or loses a specific event? So you're just betting money lines. Next, are you trying to figure out the total? So you want to bet over and unders, total points just in general? Are you doing it to bet on props or futures? So you want to know what specific stats will show you who or how deep a team can go? Or are you just doing it simply for arguments with your friends and for fun? All this needs to be asked before you even start a power rating, and then we'll get into the methods and maybe the formula on how to go forward. So here's the process of the power ratings. And if you've seen this before from Grandstand Sports Data, this is identical to building a model. So a power rating system is a sports model. First is collect and analyze data. We're going to collect data on the teams that are being rated. This data should include the team's results from past games, as well as any other relevant information such as the strength of their opponents, the location of their games, and any other factors or stats which could affect the outcome of their match. Step 2, we're going to develop the power. And then when we develop the power ratings, use your statistics, create a formula that can accurately predict the future performance of a team or player. This can be anything from regression analysis to Monte Carlo simulations. You can dig as deep as you want, but make sure the prediction output is the same for every team. Next, we're going to confirm the power ratings. You're going to test the ratings accuracy by comparing its predictions with actual results. Test the ratings by running simulations over 500 times to get an accurate average outcome. Also, measure individual statistics or variables. Some may do better than others, and this will help you in the next step, which is optimizing the ratings. Make adjustments to the power ratings to improve their accuracy. This could also be done by assigning weights or comparing multiple power ratings into one big power rating system. Next, we're going to deploy the power ratings. This is when you put the power ratings into practice by using them to make predictions. This is where you'll add your predicted odds so you can compare them to the odds of the market to see if you have an actual betting edge or not. Finally, we track everything. Track the power ratings performance over time to ensure it is still accurate, and always, and I mean always, update and improve the power ratings as much as you can. Next, what are some of the methods we use when creating a power rating system? Well, here are the 4 typical methods, or I would say the most popular methods. What we use a lot at Grandstand Sports Data would be win percentage, point differential, ELO ratings, and then alternate ways as well. So let's start with the win percentage. This method involves using a team's win-loss record to rank them against other teams in a league or competition. So obviously, we don't use the actual win percentage for teams, as this will give you a power rating exact to the standings. What we do is we find stats that correlate to wins. Now, what does this do, or how does it help us in the betting world? Well, it could help us with betting futures. Who will win the division? Who will win the conference? What win totals? So, say for instance, the Packers, they have 6.5 as a win total. Will they go over? Will they go under? Well, if your power rating system includes win percentage, you can figure this out early and often, and this could help you place better future bets. So a very common win percentage power rating can start with Pythagorean expectations. And Pythagorean expectation is a mathematical formula developed by Bill James, who is a renowned baseball statistician, and it's used to predict a team's future performance based on their previous performance. It is calculated by taking the points scored and allowed of a team and calculating their power rating, which is equal to points scored to the x power divided by points scored to the x power plus points allowed to the x power. The higher the power rating, the better the team is expected to perform. Since Bill only used it specifically for baseball, it can be used for all other sports. In our illustration, we use the same formula on the right side. And here you can see basketball, Daryl Morley, who is a lot like Bill James, but just in the basketball world. His X turned out to be 13.91. Whereas in basketball for John Hollinger, he had his X set at 16.5, and these are used into this X right here. It would be inputted into that formula. NFL is commonly used for 2.37, NHL 2.15, and then soccer 1.3. So usually the Pythagorean expectation is a good indicator for a team if they are playing over expectations or under expectations. And this is good for betting on futures like team win totals. So here's mostly a demonstration of the Pythagorean expectation. Here you're going to see a projected win percentage based on the team scoring differential, which would be the Toronto Maple Leafs from this year. They had 279 goals scored and 222 goals against. If you input this into the formula, you would get the 279 goals scored to the 2.15 power, which was that X factor when it comes to the NHL. Then it would be 279 goals to the 2.15 power again, added to the 222 goals against to the 2.15 power, and this will give you 62.0% for a win percentage. 62.0 win percentage in hockey over 82 games gives you 51 wins. That's where our math came in. But Toronto really had 50 wins. So what this is telling you is that the Toronto Maple Leafs underperformed by 1 game in the regular season. Next would be point differential. The points differential method is a way of creating sports power ratings based on the margin of victory or defeat in games. The basic idea behind this method is that teams that win by large margins are likely to be stronger than teams that win by small margins or lose by small margins. But you must add other factors like strength of competition, home field advantage, and many other variables. Your first step should always be to find stats that are correlated to margin of victory. Next, this would be good for creating a hypothetical final score. In the betting world, this is used consistently to bet spreads, money lines, and totals. And as you can see from the bottom illustration, we showed you this in the beginning of the presentation, This would be an example of a point differential model. As you can see right here, the final score will give you two types of bet. Well, it can give you all three types of bets. It can give you the spread, which here looks like the spread would be 1.5, but you have to factor in home court advantage. So whoever has the home court advantage and whatever you set that at, maybe you think home court advantage is 3 points in the NBA. Some may think 4, some may think 2. You would add it to that respective team. Next, it would give you a money line bet. Shows you here that the Boston Celtics would win. Or if you Milwaukee Bucks are at home and you have a 3-point home court advantage, this would say that the Milwaukee Bucks would win that money line. Also, it gives you a total bet. So as you can see, 228.5 would be set at the total. And then you would compare these to the betting market, which should make you find your edge. Next would be the ELO rating system. And the ELO rating system is a statistical method used to rank players or teams in games that involve head-to-head competition. It was originally developed for chess by Arpad Elo. I hope I pronounced that right. And has since been adapted for use in many different sports, including tennis, soccer, American football, combat sports, basketball, and esports. The ELO rating system assigns a numerical rating to players or teams based on their past performance, updating it after each game based on the difference in ratings and outcomes. A lower rated player or team beating a higher rated one will increase their rating more than if they had beaten a similarly rated opponent, and vice versa for higher seeded players or teams. This is very popular with individual sports or individual players in sports, such as boxing, MMA. Um, Next would be the equation. The new ELO rating would be after the result, which you would take the old ELO rating plus K, and K would be a variable that you can set at basically any amount. It's basically the maximum amount a player can change after one single event. So use a smaller number if you want ratings more condensed and crowded, or you can use a bigger number for wider gaps between comparing all of your, I will say fighters here because us at Grandstand Sports Data, we use ELO ratings for combat sports. Next would be the result minus the expected result. And by result, we usually give a 1 for a win, a 0.5 for a draw, and a 0 for a loss. And then you would subtract that by its expected result. An expected result you can find in the next bullet. The expected result formula would be 1 divided by parentheses 1 plus 10 to the power of opponent's rating minus player's rating divided by 400. And I know this looks crazy and it looks out of whack to some people who are not mathematically, I would say, strong, I guess. But we will show you an illustration on the next page to kind of simplify it a little bit more. So as you can see, this has been a recent match, or relatively recent match, when it comes to combat sports with Aljamain Sterling and taking on Henry Cejudo. So what we did here is we started with both fighters having a 1000 ELO rating. And first we have to find out what is the expected result. So by finding the expected result, we had to do our 1 divided by our parentheses 1 plus 10 to the power of 1000 would be Henry Cejudo minus 1000 of Aljamain Sterling. You would divide that by 400. This gives you 50% because since they're even, it's a 50-50 chance of each fighter winning. That's what that's representing. Now, we're going to find out what if Aljamain wins the fight, which he did. Well, we would do the new ELO rating system formula, which is 1000 plus the 10 and multiply that to the 1 minus the 50% chance, and this gives us the 1005. And that would be Aljamain's new ELO rating system. or ELO rating, sorry. Then the bottom formula would be the opposite of Aljamain's win, which would be Henry's loss. That would bring it to 995. Now, if it happened the other way around, we would just flip it and Henry would have the 1005, whereas Aljamain would be the 995. So basically up here, the AS stands for who would win the fight. So in this sequence, Aljamain won the fight. He would move to 1005. Henry would go drop down to 995. If Henry won, he would be 1005 and Aljamain would be 995. So a little bit simpler. I hope I made it for everyone. I hope I made it make sense. So what are some alternate ways to create power ratings? Well, first would be combining methods. Maybe you want to include all the methods we discussed into one power rating. This can be done with weights, regression analysis, and other techniques. The options are endless. Next would be established expert ratings. This would be looking into ratings that already exist. Some places that have power ratings would be ESPN, 538, Sagarin, or Ken Pomeroy. All have power ratings that have held the test of time and are available online. Sometimes having others do the heavy lifting makes the job easier for yourself. Finally, use a consensus and add your existing power ratings to some of the experts' power ratings to make a final boss power rating. This will do multiple services, but overall combining your power ratings with expert power ratings can provide a more accurate, comprehensive, and diverse perspective on teams or players' performances, leading to better predictions and analysis. So now that we covered what's included in our power ratings, what are some of the factors that we should include when creating our power ratings? So what should be included? So factors will be included, but we'll be covering these more in depth in a later slide. So let's go to sources for factors, and they need to be updated and easily accessible. They need to be clean and provided by proven websites that update data either daily or weekly, depending on the sport. Also, look for websites with extra layer statistics, not just your basic stats. You will not find a different power rating system if you're just basically copying from basic stats. You'll have a power rating just like everyone else, and you won't be able to see that gray area. Also, make sure that the data is easily transferable, so you can either download the data, copy and paste the data, or whatever else. So this is especially if you're using Excel. You don't want to be typing in stats for all 32 teams, which can be tedious and defeat the purpose of being more efficient. Finally would be calculations. You need to turn these into rankings. So yes, you have the ratings themselves, but turning them into ratings can help you and help your eyeballs when basically scanning your specific power rating. You need to weight the stats, so some stats are more important than others. Some people may use regression analysis for this. Some people may just use their own weights based on what they see. Test everything is basically what we would say when weighing the stats. Finally, add some fundamental factors, and we mean to the factors that do not have a number. So take a factor that cannot be calculated and add your own numerical value. Well, what does that mean? Let me explain. In sports like soccer and hockey, locker room chemistry or the team togetherness factor is non-quantifiable. So when watching games, look for some things that you think are great team chemistry and then add a number from 1 to 5 or however, but the premise is to put a numerical value to a non-quantifiable factor. And this will make your rating system a little bit more unique to everyone else. So we said we'd dive deeper into some of the factors that will be included. Let's start with some technical factors. The first of the technical factors would be sabermetrics or advanced stats. Remember, these statistics need to correlate with your reason And your reason would be if you're trying to find the win percentage, are you trying to find the margin of victory, win totals? These stats need to correlate with that specific outcome. Now remember, what's going to make your power rating system stand out or be more successful than other power ratings is using these advanced stats, not using basic stats. So if you're building a power rating system for Major League Baseball, you're not going to use batting average. That's basically what we're trying to translate here. Next, you're going to want to factor in home field advantage. Now, some sports may be different from others. There may be a very slim home field advantage in some sports where there is a huge home field advantage in other sports. Even if you need to get team specific, you must use this in any of your power ratings. Finally, would be strength of schedule or competition. This is crucial when using a power rating system because this can tell you the story between a good team beating a bad team, two middling teams beating up on each other, and it can just tell the story or give you that gap. It will also show you if good teams are beating up on weak opponents, inflating their rating, or it could do vice versa. So make sure strength of schedule or strength of competition is heavily weighted in your power rating system. Next would be fundamental factors. If you're looking to really up your power ratings game, you can take it one step further than only the statistics and start putting quantities to the following fundamental factors. By putting quantities to fundamental factors, you can get an even more accurate picture of a team's performance and leverage that in your power ratings. So first is player quality. Building offensive and defensive power ratings based on players, particularly their contribution to the team. This is usually seen in basketball where a team has a few starters and a few players who contribute the majority of the points. If you use player data to create a player power rating, you can then adjust it depending on which players join or leave the team from season to season or even game to game. Next, scheme or style. If you're a sports fan, you know that in any game, the outcome can often be determined by the strategy and tactics employed. But did you know you can use this knowledge to become a variable in your power ratings for teams in different sports? For example, in football, you could look at how teams fare against different defensive schemes, like a zone or man defense. In mixed martial arts, you could look at how win percentages vary between different styles of fighting, like jiu-jitsu versus boxing, or wrestling versus Muay Thai. This can give you a better understanding of which teams or individuals are more likely to win in a given matchup. Next, rest and fatigue. Are you curious about the impact of rest days on team performance? Are you trying to measure how rest days affect a team's winning percentage? Listen, here's a tip. Look for correlations between the number of rest days and the winning percentage. It can be used as a variable when adding to your power ratings. Finally, would be travel. Long distance travel for away games can be really tough on teams. Fatigue, disrupted routines, and unfamiliar environments can all lead to a decrease in performance and thus a decrease in power ratings. Test miles traveled compared to win percentage and see if a pattern aligns for your respective sport. Let's move on to more fundamental factors. Recent performance. If you're a sports fan, you know that teams and players can change drastically over the course of a season. A lot of power ratings will put more emphasis on newer games, which usually gives us better indication of a team's overall performance and how they'll do in the future. This is especially true when it comes to football, where the season is so short that one game can really make a difference in the statistics. Next, strength of competition. And now we've seen this in both technical and fundamental factors. There are several methods for quantifying the strength of competition in a power rating. The most common is calculating weights to past opponents. Higher weights could be assigned to better teams, while lower weights can be assigned to weaker teams. Another method is calculating the standard deviation, variance, and range of the power ratings. These options can be calculated to determine the level of competition in a league or tournament. This applies well to soccer when comparing a team from one league to another when they meet up in a tournament, also known as the Champions League. Next would be coaching. Find coaching statistics that have a great correlation to the question you are asking. So if you're building a power rating to solve for margin of victory in football, find what coaching stats have a high correlation to margin of victory. Some coaching stats could be win percentage, which would be a very, I guess I would call bland one. You can also use discipline. So discipline would be either penalties, fouls, things of that nature to get a good handicap on your specific coach. Finally, officiating. Find officiating stats that have a correlation with the question you are asking too. Officiating can hold some weight when it comes to some undisciplined teams and or just in general. Just ask Tim Donaghy, whether we like it or not, officiating matters. Be prepared for everything. So, like always, we'd like to thank you for watching. We hope you found our step-by-step guide to creating sports power ratings informative and helpful. Our goal at Grandstand Sports Data is to provide you with the stats that bring unbiased handicapping. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Your feedback is everything to us, so leave a comment below telling us what you loved about this video and any suggestions for future content as well. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one.